What's up, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one I want to break down what's happening with Tesla SPY and the overall markets. And to break down why tomorrow is going to be very important as we have Nvidia's earnings, not to mention new developments on the charts. But just know that I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you deposit $100, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 in total, not to mention an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash. The offer ends very soon in just 11 days. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening with the markets. So, as far as Tesla's going right now, we have a nice accumulation structure, and Tesla has some upside potential that could be developing here. But whether or not we get the upside move could depend on some factors. I personally think that the market's going to push more tomorrow during market open, especially as we have Nvidia looking very, very bullish. But whether or not the market gets a bigger pump after that is going to be heavily dictated by Nvidia's earnings. And I believe it's very important for me as a Tesla investor to know about Nvidia because Nvidia does supply Tesla with chips and it's going to be affecting different industries, different sectors in the markets, not to mention the market as a whole. Because of the algorithms that are going to be affected by this, and then also because of the fact that NVIDIA has its hands in so many industries. So that's why I'm going to talk a little bit about NVIDIA first, and I'll talk about Tesla and the others a little bit afterwards. What happened to the market was this. We had some tensions involving Ukraine and Russia, which caused a lot of like war talks, a lot of threats here and there, and that caused the market to sell off. The market sold off during the pre-market, and that's why the market was down. Even Tesla was down a bit in the morning. But then the big stock Nvidia started running and running and running as we have earnings approaching. We saw a lot of hype, and now Nvidia closed up almost 5%. And that's what helped the market start pushing. That's one of the reasons why they start buying up stocks because the net flow of the market is heavily dictated by this. And they use this as a reason to start buying things up. So that's the reason why the market saw this nice little bounce, it started pumping with Nvidia. And Nvidia has a lot more potential going into tomorrow. I think that Nvidia in the market will pump more approaching earnings, but then after that, we'll have to see how it goes. So, what's happening with NVIDIA's earnings? Just know that NVIDIA is a big supplier of chips for Tesla, for other companies out there like Meta and even like Apple. And I think it's very important to know this because it's going to have a big effect on tech for the markets. That's why when we look at their earnings, they're going to be reporting them after market close tomorrow, and we're going to be focused on what happens with their Blackwell GPU chip. Now, the reason why it's important is because there's been a lot of these headlines coming out saying that NVIDIA's Blackwell chip is overheating, this and that. NVIDIA never confirmed that, so we'll have to see what they say about that. The majority of analysts out there are very, very bullish, expecting strong earnings. But just know this, guys, the last time NVIDIA announced earnings, they beat on their second quarter EPS and revenue, which was awesome, but it ended up dipping because their guidance was not as strong as expectations. It has very, very strong expectations. That's why I believe guidance is going to be key. So going back down here, NVIDIA is going to address their GPU issues that the market was, or not the market, the mainstream media was talking about. So we're going to see what NVIDIA says about that. We're going to be listening to what they say about their new products, their GPUs, and their other, processors. We're going to be learning about what they say about their overall servers, how it's going to be affected by that, and then EV demand. I also think that it's going to be important to understand the demand that develops. And then Goldman Sachs is also giving us some insights. So Goldman Sachs is saying we're expecting $34.3 billion in revenue. Most likely, NVIDIA should beat on that. Also, their EPS should be around 79 cents adjusted. That's EPS per share. I think they're most likely going to beat on that too. So I think they're going to beat on earnings. They almost always do that. But then guidance is going to be key. And what Jensen Huang says about the future for Q4 guidance, that's going to determine if this thing continues to run or not. So make sure you guys keep that in mind. Also, demand and guidance are going to be the two big things. That's going to be affecting Tesla and the broader markets. So as far as Tesla goes, Tesla's going to be dictated by this, just so you guys know. If NVIDIA pushes tomorrow, we could see Tesla try to follow the trend. But then if NVIDIA breaks out after earnings, we break all-time highs to analyst price targets. Some analysts are saying it's going to 150, others are saying like 160. If NVIDIA breaks out, Tesla could start squeezing as well, so just keep that in mind. And if NVIDIA gets a rug pull, this is going to be coming back down. So about Tesla now, just know this. Tesla's doing a very, very good job at holding up. We did see a lot of news about how Elon Musk is being seen with soon-to-be President Trump, and they're continuing to work on new developments. They're working on essentially how they're going to be setting this foundation for new regulations for AI. And it's going to give them a bigger edge because of the fact that they're going to be limiting a lot of things. So this is very, very bullish news, which is continuing to help Tesla run, especially because of the fact that they are desiring a framework to regulate FSD and autonomous driving in ways that are going to greatly benefit Tesla. So that's bullish news, at least for now. That's why Tesla is pushing. We saw about 88 million in volume for Tesla, which is not that bad. It is slowing down a bit, but this will likely go up after Nvidia's earnings. On top of this, Wedbush said Tesla is going to outperform the rating, outperform the market, and they're maintaining their rating as well. RBC Capital is saying Tesla is going to outperform. That's some good news that came out. The price-price ratio is going up as Tesla's building some strength. And like I said before, we see a lot more volatility at 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Also, Wednesdays tend to be green only about 48% of the time, so just keep that in mind. And besides that, I'm not really seeing anything else that's too significant. Now, know this about the markets. Here are a couple of things. Today, the market was very mixed, okay? We saw tech like Nvda, Google holding the market up. Then we saw finance a little bit in the red, and the rest of the market was very mixed with some green, some red, and a lot of things flat. For consumer durables, Tesla was outperforming, doing a very, very good job, and overall, it's holding up quite well. I also want to mention that tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, November 20th. There's not really much data coming out for tomorrow, but we do have some bill and bond auctions at 11:30 and 1 p.m. On top of that, just know this. Before the market opens tomorrow, we have NEO, Target, and TJ Maxx announcing their earnings. And after market close, we have Nvidia, which is going to be the big one. We did have two earnings today. We had Walmart and Lowe's announce their earnings. Just to be blunt, Walmart did relatively well. They beat on EPS with 58 cents adjusted, revenues at 170 billion above expectations, and they raised their guidance, especially as we're seeing better than expected sales. And sales are expected to be stronger outside of grocery aisles, which is good news. Lowe's, however, saw about $2.89 adjusted for EPS and revenue at 20 billion. Good earnings, but not the best of guidances, which is why the share price dumped. Anyways, that is it. That's it for all my data, guys. That's it about Nvidia and the others in terms of our expectations and data. Let's now just focus on the charts from this point on. So what do I see for Tesla moving forward? What is my prediction from this point on? Just know this. Tesla is range bound right now, okay? We have to try to break past this like 350 area. I would say close to like 348 is where we have some tough resistance. Around that range, give or take like 2 points. So 348, 2 points above, 2 points below, around that range is where we have some tough resistance. If we break that, okay, Tesla's going to easily start pushing for that 362 target. Then eventually 365 and 370 are coming to start breaking these highs, putting Tesla at the highest place it's been in since 2022. If we end up getting a rejection and Tesla ends up losing 332, we're looking for a move back down to fill this gap to about 322. So right now, technically speaking, we do look more bullish on the 4-hour. We also look more bullish on the daily time frame as we have a bullish looking candlestick and we're fighting for this resistance. So I think the 4-hour kind of gives us a way that we have this imbalance that's attracting Tesla upwards all the way up here. And there's a possible inverse head and shoulders that's forming. This is like our left shoulder. This is the head and this is the right shoulder. And we're holding above our 20 EMA very nicely. So the chart is looking bullish. If you look at the EMAs, they're all pointing up and it looks like it wants to push higher as the most likely possibility. But this will depend on Nvidia's earnings. My prediction for tomorrow is we're going to see Tesla attempt to test 350. Every time we hit that, though, we do kind of consolidate a bit, so there is a chance it just consolidates. We'll see if we can break 350 or not. If we do, we will be looking for a bigger push, so it still favors upside. Now, whether we get a bigger push after that, a bigger squeeze after tomorrow, depends on Nvidia's earnings. If Nvidia does really well, we could be pushing for like the 370s. If not, we could be looking for the rug pull. So just keep that in mind. Tomorrow, I anticipate that Tesla's going to be trying to push for 350 and consolidate. Maybe it may be going a little bit higher. We'll have to see about that. And then whether we continue the pump depends on Nvidia. So just keep that in mind. For Nvidia, I expect this to push higher. I think the market's going to push higher as a whole. So we'll see if we hold above our key supports. If we lose 144, we're looking for essentially 142. As long as we're above 145, we're favoring 148, which if we break, we're looking for 150. I think Nvidia is favoring a push for 150. It looks very strong, very bullish right now on the daily and the 4-hour. So I expect some more upside for it to approach all-time highs tomorrow. And then we'll see how it reacts to 150. On top of that, guys, if we break 150, we're looking for an even bigger pump, once again, to new all-time highs. So I think that we're doing a very, very good job and we favor more upside. Overall, Nvidia looks more bullish, so give us the time it needs. And by the way, we look more bullish approaching earnings, and then we'll see what happens after earnings come out. So just keep that in mind. For the QQQ, I'm getting a lot of requests for this. We look very bullish on the 4-hour time frame as long as we're above 503.5, the 20 EMA. We also have these imbalances above, not to mention these gaps to fill, so it looks bullish. I want to call out this when you look at the daily on the triple Q. As long as we're above 503, we do favor that we want to go up to 505, which is where we have the next resistance. Eventually, the gap fill all the way up to about 508. So we do have a lot more upside potential to push at least 2 to 5 points. If we lose 500 flat, we're looking for essentially 495, but I don't favor that. I think the chart is favoring us going into like the 505, 508 area. So we look like we have more upside potential. Now, whether we get a bigger pump or a dump depends on Nvidia's earnings, but I think that the odds favor that we try to push approaching it to try to start filling some of this gap, if not all of it. And then we'll see what happens after Nvidia's earnings. Do we continue to pump or not? We'll have to see about that. So just keep that in mind. For ES, we look more bullish as long as we don't lose 59.15. We're favoring this move to the upside to fill this gap towards 59.80. And eventually that 6,000 area could be coming. If we lose 59.15, we dip back down towards 58.80. So keep that in mind. This chart formed a nice wick here, which is a liquidity grab before it started to push. So this is favoring potentially pushing up towards about 59.80 as the most likely possibility. I think the chart favors upside. So keep that in mind, guys. We could be looking for more upside from here, and we'll see how it goes from there. For Bitcoin, we look more bullish. We're holding our key supports very nicely. Just check this out. On the 4-hour time frame, we're holding our 20 EMA. And we're actually riding the green line very well. So it could dip to test the green line again towards 91,500, but then it should bounce and start pushing up for about 94,000 after that. As far as other tickers go, we have NQ looking more bullish. If we break 20,800, we're looking for a push all the way up towards 20,900 and 21,000 after that. If we end up losing 20,737, we could be dipping back down for 20,600. So I think we favor upside for about 21,000. I think there's a good chance we continue to push. And we're doing a great job thus far. As far as Apple goes, we're on a very, very nice uptrend right over here, making higher highs and higher lows. I do see a little bit of a dip to about 226 before it tries to bounce again as the most likely possibility. So look for a small dip on Apple before it tries to push. But overall, it does remain more bullish as we're forming like a wedge right here. So look for a dip to 226.8 and then a bounce after that to start pushing for 230 as we remain more bullish. Nvidia has earnings for, not Nvidia, sorry, NEO has earnings for tomorrow. We'll have to see if this pushes for 4.8 to 5 or if it gets a rug pull. So just keep that in mind. And we'll see what happens after that. We have Netflix looking more bullish right now. So one thing I keep talking about Netflix is the fact that they have a lot more of these events. Netflix is going to be streaming an NFL Texans game on Christmas Day. And then I believe Beyonce should be doing a halftime performance during that time on Christmas. So this is important because it's leading to a lot more potential revenue growth as Netflix has developed a new way to get a lot more views. And because of high estimates for the event, we're seeing a lot more hype and bullish price targets by I believe, some analysts like Goldman Sachs. Makes me think that this is going to be pushing for 880 very soon and eventually get closer to the 900s as it looks very, very bullish. So overall, there's no sign of a rejection. It looks more bullish. CELH or Celsius looks more bullish as long as you don't lose 26.69. The chart's favoring 28 to be tested near the 50 EMA. We look more bullish. Supermicro is kind of flat right now, getting very, very tight. As long as we don't end up losing 25.61, this is favoring the upwards direction. If we break past 30, we're looking for a push. Now, this has a bullish divergence, but whether or not we get a breakout depends on NVIDIA's earnings. If NVIDIA does very, very well, we could be looking for this to push up for the 36 plus area. If NVIDIA does poorly, this is going to be coming back down towards 22, back down to this imbalance. The chart's favoring upside, so it does favor it wants to go up to 36, so we'll see what happens with NVIDIA. For Palantir, we look more bullish. We're holding support here. We're kind of sandwiched between these key levels. So just like how right here was sandwiched, we're also doing the same thing here. We have 63 as resistance and then 61.5 as our support. I think we might be dipping to about the 61.5 to 62 area before it tries to bounce again. But hopefully, as long as we're above 61.5, we remain more bullish. We'll see what happens. If NVIDIA gives us a big launch to the upwards direction, that could favor some more upsides. So just keep that in mind. For other tickers out there, I just wanted to say that we're still doing a fairly good job at holding up. Just know that we could continue to push depending on NVIDIA's earnings. For Rivian, we don't want to lose 10. As long as we're above 10.1, I'm favoring 10.39. So I might be pushing for 10.39 and then consolidate a little bit longer as the most likely possibility. We will see what NVIDIA brings us, but that's what I'm seeing for now, a little bit of a push and some consolidation until then. SoFi looks very strong, holding its key support. As long as you don't lose 13.8, we're favoring 15 plus. Excuse me. So overall, this is favoring 14.5 and 15 as the most likely possibilities. And we're looking quite good so far. For the IWM Russell 2000, hit my target exactly at 231. We need to break 231.36. If we break that tomorrow with NVIDIA's earnings, we could be looking for essentially 232. If we end up losing 230.92, though, we could be dipping, but I think this is favoring upside a bit more for another big push. For other factors out there, we also happen to have AMD. As long as AMD is above 139.5, I think we favor more upside for these higher levels. And if we end up losing, we could be dipping support. So if we lose 138, we could be dipping below that support. We have an inverse head and shoulders, and this depends a lot on NVIDIA's earnings. This is going to be a big driver for it. There's a possible inverse head and shoulders, which makes me think this might start pushing higher for 142. We'll see if we break 142. If that breaks, we go all the way up closer to 150 as we have some gaps to fill. It depends on NVIDIA's earnings. If we end up losing support at 137, we could be dipping all the way back down towards the lower 130s. But I think the chart does favor upside a bit more. It looks more promising approaching NVIDIA's earnings for the 142 target. So we'll see what happens with NVIDIA, but that's what we're looking like. We're looking pretty good so far. We have 133's resistance at the 20 EMA. If we break this, we're looking for this imbalance fill all the way back up towards 135. Then we have 137.63 as our resistance, not to mention 141. If we lose support at 130, we're looking for a dip, but overall, this looks more bullish as we're approaching 137. And overall, ARM is doing a very, very good job at pushing. For coin, we look more bullish. As long as we don't lose 307, we're favoring a pushback up for 336.8. So overall, we're doing a very, very good job in my personal opinion. For Amazon, we look more bullish. We need to break past 205.3. If that breaks, we're looking for essentially 206.5, and then 208 as our targets. If we lose 203.8, we're looking for a dip back down for 201.5. But I think this favors upside a little bit more for the target towards the 206s. So I think that we're doing a very, very good job so far. Meta looks more bullish. As long as we don't lose 555, we're favoring, and as long as we don't lose 560 and 555, we're favoring upside. So as long as we're above 560, I favor move back up for 564. So we're looking very, very nice so far. Microsoft needs to break 418. If that breaks, we're looking for 420 is our potential target. I think this has some upside potential, so give this some time to develop. For Google, we look more bullish. We'll have to see if we break this resistance at 180. If that breaks, I think we continue to squeeze. I think we're going to test 180 tomorrow, so we'll have to see how it goes. As long as we don't lose 177, we do favor that upwards direction, so just keep that in mind. For GameStop, we look more bullish. As long as we don't lose 26.65, I'm favoring a move back up for 28. AMC is looking a little bit more bullish. We could be looking for 4.44. We did get the dip that I was talking about before it started to get bought back up. DJT may be testing 28.97 before it tries to bounce, so give that some time to develop. We'll see which way this ends up going. The VIX is kind of flat here. So if NVIDIA gives us a rug pull, just hypothetically, the VIX could be breaking 17.86 to start pushing for this gap fill above into the 20 areas. Just keep that in mind. We have two gaps. If we lose 15.68, we could be dipping back down to fill this gap below. If NVIDIA gives us a big pump, that could be where we end up going. So we'll be watching to see, do we get a big pump or dump? Could go either way. The VIX does have these wicks form, which sometimes does favor like a downwards move. So we'll see about that. If that does end up being the case, then this could end up dipping because the market may have some more upside. So we'll see about that. So be very patient. For the 10-year Treasury yield, we have this gap above to fill, not to mention another gap below. Could go either way. We'll just have to wait and see on this. I do want to mention that there is a slight bearish divergence, which tends to be a little bit more bullish for the markets. Also, the dollar is dipping, which tends to be, at least historically, more bullish for the markets. The dollar looks like it's going to be testing 105.98, so that makes me think that this might dip a little bit more, and we'll see how it goes from here. With that being said, guys, I think that the market's doing a good job at holding up. Tesla looks very promising to me. I think the setup looks like it has potential. Well, let's see if Tesla can break 350 to start skyrocketing. If it does end up breaking 350, we're looking for a big move up. I think we test that tomorrow, so look for a little bit of a dip and a push for that 350 area tomorrow morning. And then we'll see if we could break that or not. I think we might be testing that. And then whether or not we get an even bigger move to the upside or the downside is going to be very dependent on what happens with the earnings coming out for NVIDIA. So we'll see about that. Just know this about NVIDIA, guys. NVIDIA has its hands all over the market. It's going to be affecting Microsoft. It's going to be affecting Meta. It's going to be affecting Tesla and all these other chip stocks. And the list goes on. That's why the way the market moves is it's very manipulated by these market makers, and it's dictated by these algorithms. The algorithms are going to be affecting the price action we get. So if we get this like very, very big ripple effect led by NVIDIA, it starts affecting these different sectors. What I mean is if we start seeing NVIDIA pumping in Tesla, we're going to likely see the S&P 500 follow. We're going to see the QQQ follow, right? The market's moving in unison, right? The whole market kind of dipped and then bounced today almost as a whole. If you look at the majority of stocks I tend to talk about, we did see some red in like finance, but the majority of stocks I do cover on this channel are like in the green right now. So tomorrow, it all comes down upon Nvidia. I'll give you guys another update tomorrow morning to talk about the markets. Then we'll be giving you guys more updates about what happens with Nvidia from there. Until then, guys, get ready for Nvidia's earnings. Just know that the stock market looks more promising for upside approaching it, and then we'll see what happens after that. All right. I thank you all so much for listening. Please have a great day, night, or evening, wherever you guys are around the world. I'll be back tomorrow before the market opens to give you guys another update. And until then, I hope you guys all take care. Thanks again for listening, and peace out.